Just so you know, your emails up on the screen.
Yeah.
Want to make sure.
Takes a lot.
Arthur, if you want to say something else, just check that mic.
We've had, the three scenarios.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
I'm not wearing my tag. Candy fever is what he said.
Yeah, I think it's all that. There's a guy with 4 football fields, but that's not very impressive for her. They got 4 right here. 2, 3, and
Let's keep heading up there. I know. There we go. That should be full audio now.
Yeah. There you are. I was just saying. I was telling you at school, had 4 fields. I said, that's not impressive to me. He's got 4 right here.
Oh.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Turf, that's turf, and then the elementary field, football field is turf.
I heard of that.
We got another elementary football field, and we're building those.
That's
Well, it's a football field, it's not a full football field. With a weight room and all sorts of stuff over there.
Want to welcome everyone to our final meeting of the school year at Mace Tech. Thank you for coming. It's also my last day as president, so I will be taking presidential liberties throughout the meeting to do a bunch of inappropriate things. So we have an election coming up. We're going to be voting for a slate of folks that have agreed they want to serve. I want to remind everyone to please fill out the attendance on the online spreadsheet so we know that you're here. The treasurer's report, Ms. Collins is not here today, so I'll just reiterate what you see on the screen. We have almost $2,000 in the account, and we've collected dues from one school in the week, and these are the schools that have all paid their dues. So now, before we move towards any other business, let's conduct our election for this coming school year. I'm going to get the slate of people. Ms. Anisha Scott is going to be our new president next year, but we need to vote for our president-elect, which is Mr. Scott Young from North Point, president-elect. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Do I have anyone to move the motion forward?
I move.
Okay. Anyone second?
Second.
Fantastic. Mr. President-elect, congratulations.
It was a close
Uh,
race.
Lena Collins as treasurer for next year. She's been treasurer forever. Anyone want to move the motion forward?
I move.
Mr. Scott?
Second.
Ms. Lynn, second. We have a treasurer next year. Yeah, we get to keep our money. All right, so we have for secretary, Jordan Park from St. Mary's. Anyone moving the motion forward?
Move.
Mr. Justin moves. Anyone second?
I'll second.
Fantastic. We have Jordan Park as secretary next year. How exciting. We have taken care basically all our business for this meeting, and now I'd like to introduce Chad and Chuck Clark. You may know them when they worked at MUS, and we're going to talk about how automation has streamlined their workflows at their school. And without further ado, Mr. Chuck, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Arthur, for that. I usually like to have applause before, just in case you don't like it. Good morning and thanks. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank Arthur for letting us present today. I work at Lausanne School, and my title is Director of Business Technology, but I thrive on taking a process and automating it. Not only dynamic, but making it where you don't have to worry about it. If it's nothing we don't need your brain for, then you shouldn't have to worry about doing it. So you can be productive and work on some other things. I've got my colleague here today joining me, Chad. Fortunately for me, he was Director of Technology at Lausanne for a while. He happens to be my son. So fortunately for me, he's gone now. He's not my boss anymore. So I don't have to listen to him now. So this morning we wanted to talk about automating a process, and I want to give you a real live example. Start here with the show. We have an occasion at the school, which I'm sure you have something just like it or similar, where we have students that go on an event. In this particular case, we're going to use the event of riding a bus to a football game. When we have out-of-town games, they'll announce to the students, hey, whoever wants to go to the game, we're going to have a bus. We have this many seats. If you want to sign up, tell your teacher, or email your teacher, or tell me, or tell somebody. So we can compile a list, and then all the teachers, they would get their students who told them, put it on the list. And eventually, they'll compile all of these lists together for the administrator and the chaperones to take care of knowing who the students are. They're going to be riding the bus, make sure they get there and back safely. So in the course of making this easy sign up with one click, we're using a Power Automate. And this, is anyone familiar with the Power Platform, Microsoft Power Platform? Okay, it's a whole suite of tools within the Microsoft M365 tenant. You have Power Platform, you have Power Automate, which is the one we're talking about today. You have Power Apps, you have Power BI, you have Power Virtual Agents. What am I missing, Mr. Arthur?
That's more than what I know.
And so today we're going to talk about just one part of it. And in this case, no one even has to have the tool for you to use it. Except in this case, the students, if they want to ride the bus and we want to have them use this process, then they do use the Power Automate app on their phones or on the computer. And what happens is, once again, it enables the completion of a task with no intervention. It makes it easy for students to sign up. They don't have to write their name down or anything, go tell the teacher. They just open their phone, touch the button, and it sends the info. We're going to show you how that works. And of course, it distributes information, which goes to the right spot for the right person that needs to know. Chad, jump in anytime if I'm missing.
You're doing great.
So step by step, how does this work? The first step, from a student's perspective, or a teacher or faculty or staff, if you're going to use the Power Automate, is to install the Power Automate on your phone. It's just an app that you get from Microsoft, just like any other app. And it's on the Play Store and the iPhone store. You see a little example of what the phone looks like with when you pull it up. You could probably search for Power Automate now. You used to have to say Microsoft, but it's gotten pretty popular. Step 2, this is something similar to what the student sees. I have more on my phone, which you've seen a picture of, but sign me up for the bus. It's called an instant cloud flow. And this is called, this particular one, at the bottom of the app, you'll see 3 menu items, instant flows. And when you click on the instant flows, of course, it shows you all of the, what they used to call button flows. You just touch the button, and that's all you need to do. And then the last step is, in this case, we're asking the student to put in some information for us. Basically, we want to know the grade, the phone number, and your parent and their phone number, because, you know, we're responsible to the parent. Now, if you want to, you can actually integrate this with your school information system via API or other integration that may be available. We are able to do this at Lausanne with Briarcrest. That's probably one of the more cumbersome systems to do it with. So that's one way. So in this case, for this demo, you don't have to have any integration at all. Just ask the student for a little bit of information so you can get all that information and know who's going to be on the bus. And then finally, the student just says, run the flow, and they're done. All done. Students are on the list to go on the bus.
Now, what about permission slips? What if they have to have a permission slip? What do you do about that?
Well, we have an integrated permission slip when they enroll.
Okay,
Contract
that
says
includes any of that?
you're saying your child's authorized to go on field trips with us or whatever we do.
Okay.
So we cover all that. In the case of the Power Automate, you could actually have it present them with a slip. You could have it email the parent. You could have it email the parent with a copy to you to make sure that, you know, everything's kosher. You could have them fill out a form and bring it to you. You could have them respond to the email. There's a lot of ways you could do it. Good question. So if you had some other parameter that you needed in your event coordination and management, you could add that to it with no problem. This is very simple. I want to make it as simple as possible today so you could get kind of a taste of how it works and what you can do with it yourself.
Chuck, is there an approval process also where an admin can approve who gets to go on the bus?
In this particular one, no.
Okay.
But you can, as Ms. Lynn asked about a permission slip, you could also put an approval in there.
And how about, like, you know, you can only hold so many, so after a certain point, you'd have to either flow over to another bus or.
That's true.
Or say there's no more spots, right?
Right? Good questions. Once again, you could add a step. Today, it's only 3 simple steps, but you could add a step that says when the number of applicants or candidates are greater than 40, don't accept anymore. You send them a note that says, sorry, you're too late. Whatever.
Scott, are you guys a Microsoft organization?
Yes, yeah, but we've not used Power at all.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So this is stuff that you pay for that's available to you.
Yeah.
It's, you know, the learning curve on this thing is a little high, but that's why we have Mace Tech here. We can call each other and figure this thing out.
That's right.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, it's the entry level is pretty easy. And I'm going to show you this today. It's not as difficult as you might think. But if you're already a Microsoft tenant, 365 tenant, you'll already have all these tools available. And education has even more advantages because they allow a lot of the use of the Power Apps and the premium connections without additional cost. That's nice. In a business environment, this connection is a premium connection. You have to pay more, and that sort of thing. In an education environment, it's very low cost. If you're already a tenant, it's virtually no cost.
I probably shouldn't have said the school's Microsoft. I should have said I am. Susan is. But we're probably mostly Google for our students. But we certainly, as a school, we can sign up for free.
Yeah, so the beauty of it is that like whether you're a Google school or a Microsoft school, it's all free because it's EDU. So if you don't have it and it's something you're interested in, you can go get it and use it where you see fit.
Right.
If the kids and students have nothing to do with it, fine, and they just use it for this or whatever, then that's kind of the beauty of it is you can still have all of that stuff working in tandem, and end users really don't even need to know the difference. So I'm just kind of jumping in and taking over. Sorry.
Jump in there.
I know most of y'all. I'm Chad Clark. I was at Lausanne for about 12 years, and then I kind of moved into other nonprofit, but more kind of on the corporate side. So it's kind of the beauty of it is I kind of have seen like the best of both worlds. Now we talk about the learning curve, or Arthur had mentioned. Kind of the awesome thing about this is it's little to no code at all. Like the flow that he showed you right now, it's very simple, like very basic, like, you can do it in a matter of 5 minutes, and you need no experience to get it set up. You have something that you put what information you want filled out, who do I want to send the email to, and then where do I want to hold the spreadsheet with all the data. Like it's super, super simple, but you're only limited by what you want to do with it. And so kind of the great thing about the Power Platform, I don't know how much schools would actually use like Power BI, but if you're into that, it's very data analytics. Like it's a massive, very robust system that can take whatever data from wherever and put it in, and it pops out any kind of like easy to read statistics, graphs, charts, so you can see, how many kids are signing up for the bus, how many kids are we telling no, and that's just a small example. So you're really only limited by your imagination. So you talk about approval steps and things like that. These are all things that you can add in, and it's all just how you think about it in the logic. You're not sitting here typing in code or very little, and that's when you really want to get crazy with it. But if you're just trying to do like simple stuff, it's very little to no code, and it's just thinking logically. What do you want to happen? Okay, I needed to go to Arthur because he's the bus administrator. Okay, but he needs to get approval from these people. So you're adding in those steps as you create the flow, and of course it gets more complicated, but the end user doesn't see that. And you can do this. I mean, you have your tech department can create them, your teachers can create them, students can even create them. And the great thing about EDU is all of that is included and free. Like Microsoft and Google and Apple, like they want to give everything away to EDU. The advantage that I would say in this case is that Google doesn't really have anything very similar to this as far as creating their business apps as the Power Platform. And so they're apps that are created for your business that are supposed to be used internally, and you can share them externally. So the great thing about this is you can tie it and limit it to just your constituents. So students, you can give out guest passes to teachers or to parents so that they can utilize functions of the apps and things like that. That approval process can send it to a third-party email to say, hey, before I go any further, I need you to reply to this with yes. And then it picks up yes, and then Johnny's approved. Or if mom or dad says no, then it kicks back to Johnny and says, look, somebody said no, so I can't go any further. And so it's that simple. Yeah, and like Chuck was saying, was that you can limit it. I take 40 applications. Once those 40 are approved and on the bus, well, then I'm creating a whole new spreadsheet, so they don't even know the difference. They're just signing up for that second bus. And so it's separated and that kind of thing. And I'll give you another example. Again, this is the flow, and you can think of it exactly like that. It's a task that flows to the next piece, then that's completed, and it flows to the next piece. And that's exactly how this is set up. but it ties into the Power Apps, that's like a lot of fun. But you can get into a whole rabbit hole of like things you can do there. I know we all remember COVID, right? Well, I was working with a company, a retail company, who was trying very, very hard to stay open during COVID. And they did it, but one of the big regulations was every day you got 30, 40 employees per store. There's 32 stores in the Memphis area. And so every single shift, every single person, they have to come in, they have to fill out a piece of paper about their symptoms. Okay, fine, but A, you're killing a lot of paper. B, who do they give that to? Well, they give it to their manager. Well, guess what? The manager's not allowed to look at that. That's personal medical information. But somebody's got to get it back to the corporate office where they have to keep it on file and this, that, and the other. So a simple app and a flow combined it together so they come in and they can do it from their phone, but you can't really require them to have a phone. So you stick a $50 tablet or iPad or whatever in there, and then they sign in with their account. So there's accountability, you know, it's them doing it. Okay. And then they fill out their symptoms and it goes straight to the spreadsheet that only HR has access to. And so if they answer yes about their symptoms, boom, HR knows immediately because they get a high alert, and then they call and say, hey, you need to go home. Sorry, no questions asked. And then nobody knows the difference. And so that's something simple. And you can turn that into, you know, we were doing it with inventory counts and things like that. And these are all very, and I'm not a coder by any stretch of the imagination. But the whole idea is to make it, as teachers and as educators, we don't really care what's going on in the back end. We want what is going to make it the easiest, most functional way to get our jobs done. And we're going to try and do that in a way that the students learn the best. So whatever tools you're using, whatever method you're utilizing to do it, it's going to be what is the quickest and easiest method of getting that job done. And so on the back end, it's very easy to build, whether you're tech savvy or whether you know code or not. As long as all you have to do is think in that logic. And we've seen teachers build them for their classrooms. We've seen teachers build them for other just various functions. You know, you got sign up for the bus. I don't know if you saw it, you've got a carpool one up there that you can create an app where you got kids waiting on the carpool lane. You say, oh, Johnny's coming up, click the button. And then the message is sent back to whoever's in charge of the kids in aftercare to send Johnny because his mom or dad is here. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I just want to hear this again, because I think I may have misheard. Are you saying that you've trained teachers to use Flow and they've created their own flows and
I have not trained teachers specifically.
Okay.
I have trained end users, and I'm talking about cashiers or, you know, middle management, people who don't own a computer. This is the device they have right here. They don't have iPads, they don't have computers, they have a phone, and that's their only method of connection. But I have trained them in showing them how to create basic flows so they can easily manage their own staff. Because each store, in my case, is different. Each classroom is different. Each school is different. Each building is different. Each grade level is different. And so it's something that's very simple, and all you have to be able to do is think along those logical lines. And once you have that, it's a matter of putting it together. And then what you end up doing inevitably is you look at it, you go, okay, this is really cool. What else can I do? And you go, oh, I kind of want to look into coding a little bit because I'd like to really do this piece where I just have to insert this one piece of code. And then suddenly you turn around and you've got students creating flows. You've got students creating power apps. You've got all of that kind of stuff going on. And again, going back to the level of accountability, because you can tie it to an account, you can share it with whoever. So you can say, oh, well, we only want the high schoolers to be able to sign up for the bus. So you can structure it such so that middle schoolers don't even have access to it, you know, or I only want, you know, if in the case of the COVID thing, I need the HR department only. I don't even want to have access to it. So you can structure it such that they're the only ones that can access the data. They're the only ones that can go in and make changes. They're the only ones that can share it out to whoever they see fit. And so it's really kind of, it's sort of it's an all you can eat buffet of just what do you want to do. So like I heard a couple questions. I don't remember what they all are, but it's sort of like the answer is yes. Now, what's your question? And it's just a matter of putting the pieces together. It's like a giant puzzle, but it's not. It's scary because people operate under this assumption that they have to know how to code, or they're going to have to teach kids how to code, and like you don't have to do any of that. You know, the little bit you get into it is very, very simple if you do get into it. And then all of a sudden you find yourself wanting to learn more. And there's so much, like Microsoft and you know, all those big players, they have a habit of like creating these big, robust things and then dumping it out there. But you have these huge communities of free resources and tools that will show you step by step on how to do everything. They have like approximately 1 billion pre-canned apps and flows for anything that you want to do. Created one, an app that would like my first like real go at it was an onboarding process for new employees. And it's like this canned app that pretty much got everything done that I needed. Like you go in there and tweak a couple things and say, oh, well, we got to add this training video that they got to watch. But it's just very simple. So you can there's already a ton of stuff that you can do with it. So that's, I wanted to show y'all. Are you ready for that? Or?
Yeah, let's see. Now, I mentioned good point, Chad, with the data. There's hundreds of connections you can automatically connect it. You can connect to almost any data source out there, including Google. So Google's not a showstopper. If you got data in a Google Sheet or whatever, you can still get to that data. Quickly here, where do you find it? If you're a tenant, you just click on your menu right here, your waffle menu, and you see all the apps, just like Google, it's pretty much the same. And if you're not in a tenant at all, just go to make.powerautomate.com and it'll pop up the interface. And then we'll show you quickly as we go. Here, this is what the flow actually looks like on the back end, except for the steps. So I'm telling it, whoops, let's go back. How do I go back? There we go. I want to manually trigger a flow. Watch, I was telling you is the button. Then I'm telling it to send an email and then add a row to a spreadsheet. That's all the steps in this particular flow. I say, that's cool. Well, how does that work? Okay, here's the email that's sent. In this case, it's sent to me. I have me on there. If you gave me your email, I have you on the list. So we're about to demonstrate, and you're going to get an email in your box. And this is what the spreadsheet looks like. Of course, you know what a spreadsheet looks like. Power Automate. Why do we use it? Risk of errors. You don't have anybody intervening. You can't have a typo or anything. Time savings. That's the big one. And it streamlines the process. Okay, sign me up to ride the bus. Now, how does it actually work? Now I would like to have, Chad, if you'll be a student.
Yeah.
And I'm the administrator. Or whoever, all of you that gave me your email for administrators. So you'll receive the email. Chad's going to show us how it looks on the phone. Let me, there we go.
Okay, so again, is that upside down?
Yes.
Okay, so this is, like he was saying, can y'all see that? Okay. So you go wherever your favorite app store is and you download Power Automate. So this is from the student perspective, and this is kind of what they see. I don't have any. They can create their own if they want to, you know, and they can share them out based on whatever permissions they have to share that is created on the back end. We've seen kids create, back when I was doing the VR club and we first started with Flow, it was a method of signing up to utilize the Oculuses that they had, because we only had like 3 and we had 20 kids, and so they would have to reserve the Oculus because this was back when you had to attach it to a tower. But so this is what they started doing, and so we had the kids actually created the flow where they would sign up for it, and then whoever was managing the towers would have that spreadsheet data so that they could see who had signed up for a reservation. The other thing is one of the problems that we used to run into before they were doing this with the bus at Lausanne was that you would have this issue of kids signing other kids up for the bus. So I want to go to the game on Friday. Oh, Chuck, you want to go with me? All right, I'll sign us both up. And then mom and dad are like, no. But then what happens there? Well, then you have the issue of he got charged because we got to pay for the bus. So however much you're charging for the kids to take the bus to Nashville, he's getting charged for it. Mom and dad are going, I said he couldn't go. And so now you're eating that difference. Again, going back to the accountability, you can see that I signed up. I can sign up whoever I want to sign up. But if you see that I have signed up 15 different people, it's very easy to go, no. It doesn't work that way. And you can limit it. You can limit it such that one sign up per kid. That may or may not be the best idea depending on what you're trying to do, but you can do it. So this is what it looks like from the student perspective once they've downloaded it. And like Chuck was saying, down here at the bottom, you have your own flows. You have instant flows that are already there. That's part of the canned experience that I was talking about.
By the way, students, student or teacher, whoever, will only see the flows that are shared with them. So if you're in Microsoft Tenant, the person that builds the flow shares to whoever they want to. And when they share it, it automatically shows up.
Yeah.
Because they are logged in. That's the advantage of having the tenant, is it has all of your office profile information already there. So it knows who's signed in. A student wouldn't even have to put their name in because it recognizes them from their sign.
Right. So at the top left here, it says my cloud flows. I don't know if you can, so those are any ones that I've created. And then you have the shared with me. And so since I didn't create this flow, or rather he did, he shared it with me. And so this is the only one I have, but there it is. So you would have all of your options. It's totally tailored to whatever permissions that student or teacher or whoever has within the context of the school. So, if they've got science class flows or geography or gym or whatever, those are all going to show up there and they're not going to see anything that doesn't have anything to do with them or hasn't otherwise been shared with them. And so they would click on that, and then it goes to it goes straight into the flow details. And so this is the sign me up to ride the bus. I think I've already, yeah. So I click to run the flow. And so they would just click the button. And again, this is all custom. So what grade are you in? My phone number.
Once again, with an API, you could pull this information automatically.
Yep.
When the students logged in, it would already have all of it.
And I was going to point that out. Yeah, you can connect it to anything popular that's widely utilized, but you could turn around and connect it to almost anything. And then if you can build an API or a lot of them, I think this may actually have an open API. So if you can build an API, you can connect it to literally anything. And so if I put my parents' name and then parents' phone number, and again, you can have it such that all of this is pulled in. So that's a student, and you might add in the date if you're someone who, if you do a lot of the buses, you might, add in that. And it said flow ran successfully. And so that's all there is to it. And so what that did is that triggered the email that sends it to the bus administrator, and it's going to add the row to that table. So you saw the steps that he was talking about. Those are those puzzle pieces. That's where all the coding goes away. It's just, what do I want to do? I want to run this flow. I want to send the email once it's ran, and then I want to add the row to that table. And then you could add a step in there as, wait for approval email or wait for a reply email or however it's labeled before it adds the row to the table. So before it even signs them up. And so you can add all those steps in. And I think you had added email addresses.
Yeah.
So if you added your email address, you already have an email with that information. So if you were the bus administrator, you would have a copy of that email saying, I just signed up, here's my information. And depending on where you house that data, where you house that spreadsheet, you can click on it. It's probably got a link. It should have a link in the email where you just click on it, and then you can see everybody that's already run that flow and everybody that's already added their information.
Okay, there it is, top of my list. Hopefully, Scott, Justin, you guys should have an email. Did you get it? Yep. Oh, super. Okay, let's go ahead and dismiss all that. So here's basically what it looks like, and you can set the email up however you want to. This gives you the basic information. This can go the administrator, it can go to the parent, and go wherever you want it to go.
And this populates the data in that spreadsheet. So you have it all in the spreadsheet. And also, touching on one thing about approvals. Approvals, how they look like, is just an email. So it's very easy.
Yep, it is. And I'm just kind of tying this back into where, because the whole point of this was to kind of give you guys yet another tool to try and make your own lives easier. You know, going back to like the approval situation, I always tie it back to employee onboarding because I've used this most in sort of the more corporate world. But a lot of that, it's the same kind of setup. You know, HR says, okay, you're hired. And then they start a flow, and that flow sends it to the department supervisor. And that department supervisor sends the email with their list of tasks. And once it's done, they check it, and then it kicks it off to the next one. And so each of those act as a trigger for whoever needs to complete the next step. So when they come back and they say, oh, they never got their employee handbook, it's like, well, Jim, why didn't you give them the employee handbook? You checked the box that said you did, you know, and so it's a level of accountability. It's also a to-do list reminder and that kind of thing, you know, so that's just another example.
You know, it's a nice little feature here. It's got a link to the spreadsheet. So whoever got the email, you should be able to actually pull up the spreadsheet. And there we have it. So whatever Chad just put in there shows up.
Yep. And you can share this again with whoever needs it and block it from whoever doesn't. So you can make it a wide open situation. If you want to say, hey, you send a flow that says who's coming to the basketball game tonight, and people can fill it out, and anybody and everybody can click on that and see all 200 kids that are going to be there, you know, or you can tie it down to where, you know, nobody needs to see who's going on the bus except the bus administrator, that kind of thing. So, but anyway, that's all I got.
Yep, that is it. And just holler at us if you want us to. We're running out of time, so I was going to show you how to actually do the 3 steps, but you saw them. They're very easy.
Oh yeah, talk a lot.
It's easy to do it. So that's what we got for today. Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you.
Roll call, excellent.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. It takes a lot of work to do this, and you guys have done an excellent job over there. And I'm sure you wouldn't mind fielding phone calls from people that might be interested in doing
Absolutely.
the same thing.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Before we move on to a couple of other things, house cleaning things we need to do with Mace Tag, this is a flow that I created at MUS, which involves a purchase order system. And very simple, I just want to show a user would visit this site, click on their particular department, and to fill out a purchase order, they would pick the appropriate purchase order that they need. For example, if it needs to be approved by a higher administrator, they would click on this block here. And then the Excel sheet pops up with the purchase order. And we're just waiting for it to come up. Might be running into a little slowness. Let's see. There we go. So there is the purchase order that our users can fill. And once they fill it and close the purchase order, Power Automate in the background sends it for approvals everywhere that it needs to be sent, and it gets processed into an online, almost like an online Excel sheet called a list, where it has all of our purchase orders and all the users and all the money that was spent in our CFO looks at that and makes appropriate adjustments. So I just wanted to share that little component and how we're doing that in MUS. There is a mistake that I made during the election of our slate, and that is that we actually need to vote for these positions. I apologize for that, but we need to actually vote for our incoming slate. And give me 1 second here.
Do we get a little bit of campaign speeches here?
Okay, for Scott Young as president-elect, do we have, I don't know how to do this, actually.
I think
How do we
passed
vote?
out there, I think we've just had, we approved the slate.
Yeah, we
We
just have to
make
do it
them-
overall because we already approved each one individually.
So we don't need
just
to
have
vote?
Well, we did.
We need to
We're
vote
vote to
overall.
approve the slate.
Okay, vote to approve the slate. Okay, fantastic. So we don't need to do it individually. Okay, so and move forward the motion to approve the slate. Lynn moves and,
Okay, and then you say all four, say aye, all opposed.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
All four say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I think I heard one person back there.
Vote against.
Okay, the motion passes and the slate is approved. And we have our officers for next year. The next part of our Mace Tech meeting is going to be the round table. Let's move the camera. Yeah, there we go. Okay, make sure that it is still streaming there.
Yeah, let's get those now. Actually, let's start with that right. There we go. You might want to also drop it down. More. There we go.
Okay, fantastic. For the roundtable discussion, this is an open forum for any of us to talk about anything that's causing you difficulty, need insight on any information software experiences. So I open the floor up to anyone that would like to talk about it.
I think I'll mention, so we currently have a bunch of Boxlight interactive flat panels, which have been really awesome until this year.
Until this.
When they lost their, or they were basically, I don't think they ever really were officially Google certified, but they were installing Chrome and some other Google apps on their device, and Google kind of caught them and threatened them with whatever they threatened them with. And so in November, there was an update that just, it was October, November. Yeah, November, beginning of November, all of a sudden, all of our boards just like started restarting, reloading. They stripped all of our apps that we pushed out and put the Opera browser on there, which we don't like. And so we frantically had to kind of fix that. And they said it was just an update that went out too early. They weren't transparent about it at all. And now this last week, we learned about a new product, and in conversation with them, well, where did we find out about Google? How Google stripped their, we didn't find out from Boxlight. Who did we find that out from? Yeah, so basically, we learned that Google had stripped their, or threatened them in some way. And so we looked at this new product, or we're looking at this new product called TouchView, which is supposedly going to be the only Google certified third-party board. And they're still working through that negotiation, but the boards, their Gen 4 boards are about to come out in May. And it natively will run Jamboard, which is the only third-party board that I'm aware of that will run Jamboard other than a Google Jam. The price point is very attractive right now, based on the quote we got. In about a week or so, we're supposed to get our hands on a demo. The local rep is going to drive from wherever he is 9 hours away. No, not that guy. Like the local, like Southeast rep for this touch view is going to get the board and then he's going to drive it to us. I emailed him this morning. What I'll likely do is I'll send out an email to Maze Tech and say, we got the board if anyone wants to come and play with it, and the rep can kind of show us the bells and whistles. It's very similar to Boxlight if you're familiar with it. Normally we would go through like a real process where we bring one in, have teachers demonstrate it or play with it and all that kind of stuff, but they're so similar. The functionality is pretty much the same. The big bonus is it will natively work with all of the Google apps. So it actually has a Google Slides app on it. It has a Google Docs app on it.
With Boxlight, you have to do all of the G Suite stuff through Chrome. And this will actually have the native apps, just like you did on that phone.
So we'll offer that to everybody if that happens. Hopefully, they seem once we kind of insisted that we get our hands on it before we order. It's called Touch View.
We weren't really interested in it, but they also have the option to side install a Tiny on the board. So it's the native OS is Android and has their whole thing. But you can also install like a Windows Tiny on it or a Linux Tiny on it and switch between the two systems. So for people who are a Windows shop, they have that option. We just totally aren't interested in that, so we didn't really look into that. But that is another thing they do. Some of the other boards don't.
So you guys going to get rid of the Boxlight altogether, just uninstall them and?
No, I mean, we have so many of them, and I mean, we bought them over the last, 2 years?
Yeah.
And we can install Chrome. It's just an old version of Chrome. Like you can't install the current version. So we found workarounds. Yeah, so we found workarounds and that they're functional and they work, and the teachers love them. Except for when all that craziness happened, and it took us weeks to figure out like what's going on and kind of playing with them.
So they pulled your APKs off the machines?
Yeah,
And then
just
uninstall
uninstall
everything. But you can install them back again?
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
manually, but the downside is now we have to physically interact and touch all of them, and every time there's an update, there's always something that goes wrong, and you actually can't disable the
And
updates.
they have an MDM solution, but it's not great.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
seems like every time we enroll it now, something wonky goes with the board where it'll just randomly shut off, or like it's applying policies that we have
Yeah.
installed. So there's just some glitches going on. So we manually manage them, which is not great, but.
What MDM are you guys using? Is it Jamf or is it Mosul?
Well, we use Mosul for all of our
Max.
Macs and iPads.
The Boxlight has their own.
Has their
MDMs.
own.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And I will say TouchView does.
They have an MDM, but we haven't.
They have an MDM, and they were like, you can bring in Mac or Windows or the Boxlights all under one umbrella. And we were like, we don't need that because Mosul does just fine.
Yeah.
But they do have that option available.
We have a couple of Boxlights, and it's a little disconcerting that they never were Google approved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no one in the sales department ever mentioned
No.
that.
Well, I don't think I'm not sure they really knew. I don't know if they were transparent with their reps either. Because the vendor we chose is very helpful and they come and do training. That's the only thing that I'm kind of going away from them is the other vendor for the touch views. I'm not sure they're going to be able to offer the same level of service that we get from our current vendor because their team's phenomenal. Like, they come on site and do trainings. She's reachable by phone. She emails quick. Like, they're awesome. I mean, like, hands down. So, and I know that this other board may not come with that same level of support. But that's something we're asking too, but we just haven't gotten to that point. We literally had a call 2 days ago.
Yep.
To see the Gen 4. They delivered a Gen 2 board to us.
Yeah, they brought
I
in
don't
a
know why.
Gen 2 board, and then they were like, the whole conversation was, well, yeah, this board's older, the new boards are way better, and we're kind of like, what's the point of this? Why did you bring this? So we spent the whole time talking about the four, and I was like, I like what you're saying, but I need to see it. Like, this is useless. You just telling me. So yeah, we did a remote session. But yeah, we're all supposed to start selling in May and June. Hopefully we get one soon.
And what's that attractive pricing you were talking about? Because your attractive pricing may be different than ours.
What does attractive mean to you?
So we're getting the box lights for around 2,800. These are right at around 23. So yeah, that's substantial. And for something that works better in our ecosystem with Google, I think it's attractive. Now, will they cost correct, after they get out in the market next year? Maybe. But if they're about the same price, then that's still okay.
So what if they put a decent-
To make it easier and more seamless.
Fantastic. All right. Does anybody else have any other things they want to talk about in the roundtable?
I've got a question.
Ms. Lynn.
Okay, AI, that's a big topic these days. Has anyone found any really good AI detectors for writing? Has anyone tried Turnitin yet? So they're saying 98%. Is it 98%?
We have not, in my testing, had any false positives yet.
Okay,
I did read a story in the Times, like the New York Times, about a false positive.
right.
But the way that I've been testing it is I've had it write a full essay. I have changed some portion of that essay and then run it through the detection just to see what it looks like. And what I found is if I change something substantial enough, as in like a paragraph of a 5-paragraph essay, it will cut off the detection about a sentence before I change it. And it will pick it up about a paragraph after my change. So if I like on a 5-paragraph essay, if I change the 4th paragraph, it to avoid a false positive assumes that the conclusion was also written by a human. But I'm still getting like a 40% AI detection
Real
on that.
artists who isn't with stuff that was Chat GPT, but stuff that people have really written. It's still saying it's 66% written by AI when we know for a fact none of it was written by AI.
Turnitin has not given me any false positives yet,
Okay.
like even at that level.
Okay.
That does not mean that it's not going to.
Yeah.
But I would, because another part of Turnitin, since it's got the similarity reports,
Yeah.
a lot of those similarity reports will report back, especially on something that a 10th grader wrote, that portions of it are potentially from another source. But those other sources would be like, they said, comma, and a quote from the book with a parenthetical citation for a page number at the end of it. And so just as when you see that 33% plagiarized, you don't look at that and say, oh, this kid plagiarized this.
Right.
I think if you see 6% of this is AI written, it's a similar kind of situation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. Has anybody tried anything else?
Any what?
Any other AI detection?
Oh, AI detection.
Yeah.
We're still in the beginnings of even talking about what the possibilities are. We had a meeting with our headmaster and a lot of our educators talking about AI, and what people mostly focused on was the possible catastrophic effects of using this technology. And after everyone shared and everyone had their say, the headmaster chimed in, and he more or less challenged us to find how this can be useful. Find how you can use this as a tool to better your process or your projects, and not have this all or nothing mentality where this technology is just going to ruin everything. Well, it's not.
It's like Google, it's the
Yeah.
same, that's what we found out there, like, it's just like you're learning to teach with Google all over.
We're in the process of just rewriting it and making sure that it's clear in the honor code. Right now, we are still blocking it, but likely we'll just finish the year out the way we kind of, once this all came through, we blocked it until we figured it out and all that. And as we rewrite that policy, we'll then open it up likely for next year. But we're just like, Spark Notes and all that other stuff, it's part of the honor code now. And we have to specifically, have the student understand that this is now part of that. Is I think the direction we're going.
Well, it's in just about everything now. I played around with Quizlet. Does anyone play with Quizlet? It wasn't even right, and it told me my answer was wrong, and then it said, "No, this is the right answer," and it gave me the answer I'd just given. I mean, I don't know. It's still got a long ways to go, I think, before it's really clear as to what's it going to be usable for in education, and as far as being correct. Because, I mean, we found things where it just gives us false information, completely false. It's things that it just made up, that they don't even exist. So I think we just have a long way to go.
I think it's important to communicate that everywhere, that this system is not 100%. This will give you sometimes false information because it's programmed to aggregate all information from the internet and just spew it out. There's no counsel in the background saying, okay, this is correct, this is not correct.
Right.
It's meant to give an answer, not the right answer maybe all the time.
Sarah Casey from St. Agnes said that the school library journal has lots of ideas in last month's issue on ways to use it effectively.
Oh, well, maybe you can send that to the group.
Just popped into the chat.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what
fantastic.
share with us.
We're currently working on our policy for AI. Like you said, Justin, you'll block it. Well, we know that's probably going to be a useless feat right there.
Okay.
Trying to block it. But we're basically teaching the premise that this is a jumping off point. You can brainstorm an idea and it'll spit out all this information. Then it's up to you to take that information like you would on the internet search and try to create something of your own. And of course, hopefully the teachers can recognize if that student has actually written that or not. That's the best
Right.
test
Right.
to see if it's plagiarized.
Well, and that's where we've discovered a lot of it. This student could never write at this level.
Exactly. I mean, the ones that don't write, you're going to see them right off the bat.
Now, I've heard some educators talk about, let's go back to the 19th century and let's make all our kids do all their work on pen and paper
Yes,
in the
I'm up for that.
classroom. And so
Push them
that's actually a strategy that people are talking about.
Hey, why not?
There was an article in the district administrator last week about that, how some schools are taking out one-to-one now that the pandemic is over. It's very interesting.
Wait,
Yeah.
we're just starting.
It's already obsolete.
You're ahead.
Get ready to go.
I got another issue, sir, if I may throw it out there.
Well,
If there's any more on AI, go ahead first. Yeah, we for years, we've been struggling with the most optimized wireless display. Has anyone found that wonderful, perfect solution? We tried Light Show for a while, then we've tried all kinds of different projection systems. The latest we're on is the I-beam, supposed to be the lowest cost. That's where you can connect the teacher's computer to the display, whatever it happens to be, whether it's a board or a TV or a monitor, whatever it is.
We're even just using whatever Bluetooth or whatever. There's going to be lag almost every time. We're just telling them to hook up an HDMI if they're going to be watching a movie or something.
That's certainly the greatest way, but I didn't know if anyone had found, this wireless system works really well.
We found one that's really good, but it's super expensive, and that's Vivi. We have a couple of teachers using it right now, but
Vivi?
they're Vivi. Their boxes are super expensive, and
Yeah.
you have to pay. You can buy it, but then you don't get the support that you get if you do a yearly subscription. And so,
Thanks,
but then their
Bob.
yearly subscription is VIVI. Their yearly subscription is like $600 a box. And it's like, who can afford that? You know,
Yeah, we still have their demo boxes we have on board right now.
our
They are
teachers love
expensive.
it though. They have been very reliable, and they have all sorts of bells and whistles. Like they will completely get rid of all ads and all YouTube videos. All you have to do is just paste the URL, and it just plays it without any ads automatically. And you don't have to go through any websites or anything like that, and it does it for everything. So that's one of the huge advantages that we use. But
And it has a nice signage feature.
it does. It has a
Signage.
great signage feature. I mean, they're really good. There's just the price point just isn't there for
Kind of
education,
expensive.
unless you can afford it. You know.
Corey, what's the product that we used, that hockey puck? Do you remember?
Is it
ClickShare, Barco ClickShare.
ClickShare.
Yeah,
ClickShare?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So that is a
So the
device.
iBeam
It's
is
a
like-
dongle that you connect through USB-C. It's really weird because it shows up on your device as a external CD drive for a second, so you can install the software off the puck, and then once you've installed it, you click the physical button, which is really all the thing is one big button, and then it will share to the system that it's plugged into.
Yeah. And the performance seems to be very good. How is playing video through it?
Generally, it is good. We have run into an issue with it with the newest OS X update. It broke it without a specific firmware update, and even then, we still were kind of iffy on it. So I don't know if I would suggest it to a mainly Mac shop, but with Windows, it's worked really well. Also, Lakeland, Wander from Lakeland said we love Screen Beam.
That's what I meant to say.
She said
Screen
they're
beam. That's what
not, so you said
Resorted
I-beam
to.
and you meant Screen Beam? Yeah.
Screen beam, yeah.
Hey, Wanda.
It seems to be
Thank
the
you.
lowest cost and the easiest. There's no dongles or anything. You just connect to it.
She says they're more expensive than an Apple TV or a Fire Stick, but you can cast from any type of device without having to install an app.
Now, I'll bring up a former president of Mace Tech, Brian Beretta. When he worked at Bodine, his strategy was to buy these $100 HDMI plugins that's actually a PC. It's a Windows, a little 10 PC, and then from one 10 to another 10, you can easily mirror. And so that was his strategy, and it worked phenomenal for him. I know most of us are Mac schools, right? So. No? Oh, wow. I love this group. Too bad I'm not president anymore.
What, do you know the name of that? Mr. Arthur? We'll have to
And
research.
those little $100 PCs, I'll get you a link.
Yeah.
I'll get you something.
And I think what he's using, I don't know if everybody's familiar, it's called Quick Assist. It's built into Windows 10 and above. So it's remote support. The only thing that you can't do, you could get rid of Log Me In or TeamViewer and all that, except that it doesn't allow for unattended access. So you do have to be on both ends to send a code, to give a code and type in that code. But once you do that, I've used that and stayed mirrored or connected or whatever for hours without issue. So it's actually really cool, and it can, if you don't need that unattended access, like it's not gonna work for remote access to a server, but for like end user support, if they need help, like you can get rid of whatever other mirroring software you're using for it. It's in there and it works really well. So I think that's exactly what Ryan was doing.
Okay. This sounds a little tech heavy for a teacher to.
No.
Not really?
No, start button, type in Quick Assist, and then give help or get help. Get help and type in code, and then whoever's giving you the help gives you a 6-digit code. It's very simple.
Great. Fantastic.
Does anybody use smartboard software, like their notebook software? So,
We did until we couldn't get it for free anymore.
yeah. We still have, especially one teacher that is using it And that's the only reason we still have a smart board in her classroom, but all of her curriculum is in that software. And I didn't know if it worked on other smart boards or interactive boards.
Most
It's
interactive,
working with the box lights,
yeah,
because our teachers have smart files
Okay,
and boards, and then when we switch to the box light, they're still able to.
still able to use it?
and
Okay.
most of the
There's
boards
a
have,
couple of things you have to tweak when you switch over to the box light,
But it's not like
but it's
reformatting
very
the whole
compatible.
file, you know.
Okay.
It's good to know.
most of the other, I don't know what you call that type of program, but content creation, interactive board content creation software, most of them will convert Promethean files,
Okay.
smart notebook
that's good.
files. And they might, if they've got a really fancy one where they've got a lot of bells and whistles, that might
That might.
require a little bit of
She's a
tweaking.
math teacher, so the problem is she's got all of those math formulas. and
No, those
stuff
all
like that.
come over.
Those all
Yeah.
came over just fine? Okay,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
good.
the things we found that when working with some teachers is like, some of the formatting might change just a little bit. They might have to change the font,
Yeah,
some
like
of the
spacing might
spacing,
change. It's
Okay.
very minimal
I
stuff.
would say it's not as bad as like going from PowerPoint to slides or something like that. You know,
Okay.
that'll just mess everything up. But it's more like if they had like a black box to obfuscate part of the screen, it might have moved when they convert it over and they just go in and move it and save it.
It's been minimal enough that I haven't heard complaints.
Well, that's good.
So,
Okay.
okay, it's a lot.
They liked the features and the usability of the board so much that that was a very minor problem and something they could accept.
Now, what is the cost of the box light?
Right now, we're getting them around 2,800 for a
Okay.
65-inch.
But we are looking at the
But we love
other
that
brands right
touch
now.
view, and they're coming in right around 23.
Okay, we've got, I think, one, we've got a couple, and we're about to get another one, so.
Is that same size as 65?
65-inch.
Yeah,
They use them, yeah.
yeah.
They use the same thing,
Okay,
same software.
all right, well, that's super helpful.
Yeah.
Thanks.
The time is 10:05. We can adjourn the meeting, but have overtime and keep talking and have more coffee and fruit if we'd
I
like.
think you can have more coffee.
I'd like to,
Can I add one thing, just a reminder, our social's next Thursday.
Oh, social. There we go.
Must be 4:20 at 4:20.
420, I like that.
Hopefully you can remember that.
I'll be there, but I'll be late.
We'll allow you,
Okay.
Whitney, what time is that? I'm sorry?
4:20
4:20?
on
On 4:20.
Thursday,
Okay.
April 20th
Oh, my
at 4:20, or 4:30, or 5, whatever you prefer. Fun will be had by all, we always have a good time.
And where is-
Outside of the patio,
and where
I'll
is it?
see the on clips.
Okay.
Or that's become our regular spot.
Where is it?
It's a good spot.
See on clips.
Oh,
Uh-huh. That makes the place on
Yeah.
clips. Come on.
Las Delicias?
For that.
I like that place. It's
Now
cheap.
that, it's good.
I mean, you can get a lot of food.
Get lots of
good
pictures.
wine.
Back patio is pretty quaint.
Yeah.
Pictures of adult, libation. Or do like a bigger one too, but. And it's on Maystack, so come enjoy it. Very good, very good.
Fantastic. Maybe my final act as president is to
Attend.
approve all margaritas for the group.
You might want to preempt a few pardons, just. in
Preempt a
case.
few pardons.
Some presidential pardons. for
I
you.
pardon you for whatever you've done. Fantastic. I call for the adjournment of the meeting. Is there anyone to
I'll move.
move?
Second.
Fantastic. Our meeting has adjourned. Thank you very much. It's been an honor serving you all.
Oh,
This
you've
year.
done a great job, Arthur. Thank you.
Actually, I think it's our president, aren't you, through at least the party?
At least the party, well, yeah.
Till inauguration day. right?
It's good inauguration.
You got that recorder turned off. Corey?
Not yet. Let me make sure we don't have anything
Take some
incriminating.
food with you, please.
Word.